Making headlines this hour, President expresses his condolences following the death of the former Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. Heritage Minister states libraries are a gateway to finding reliable information needed for everyday life. And Managing Director of Fenaka Corporation says the government will support employees who voluntarily leave Fenaka Corporation by helping them establish their own businesses. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Mariam Shaushat. President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu expresses his condolences following the death of former Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. In a post on social media, President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu said he shared the grief over the passing of Sheikh Hamad, describing him as a visionary and wise leader whose leadership made a significant contribution to Qatar's development and progress. The President extended his condolences to His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Emir of the State of Qatar, on the loss of his father. He also conveyed his sympathies to the Qatari royal family, the government and the people of Qatar, and prayed that Sheikh Hamad be granted the highest ranks of Jannatul Firdaus and eternal peace. President noted that Sheikh Hamad also played an important role in supporting development in the Maldives through assistance provided across several sectors. He said Sheikh Hamad's contributions included funding projects for the construction and renovation of mosques. Among the most notable projects supported by Qatar during Sheikh Hamad's reign is the Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani School in Gang, Lamu Atoll. Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani died at the age of 74. His death was announced by the Amiri Diwan, the office of the Emir of Qatar, on 12th July. Sheikh Hamad ruled Qatar from 1995 to 2013 and is widely regarded as the architect of the country's modern development. During his reign, Qatar experienced a rapid economic and social transformation with significant growth in its oil and gas sector and a substantial increase in gross domestic product, helping establish the country as a leading regional and global economic power. President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu establishes the Greater Malé Transport and Mobility Office as an agency under the Ministry of Economic Development, Transport and Trade. The office was established under the authority vested in the President by Article 116, subsection A of the Constitution of Maldives. The decision was announced in a directive issued by the President's office on Sunday. According to the directive, the office has been established to provide an urgent and coordinated response to increasing traffic congestion in the Greater Malé region, driven by the growing number of vehicles on the roads. Operating under the guidance of a governing board, the office will be responsible for formulating and implementing programs in collaboration with relevant authorities to ease traffic congestion. It will also advise on policies aimed at addressing congestion caused by the rising number of vehicles and lead efforts to modernize the region's transport network, expand parking infrastructure and develop other modern mobility solutions. Under Directive Number 13 of 2026 issued by the President's Office, the official correspondence code assigned to the Greater Malé Transport and Mobility Office is 1142. Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage Hina Walid says libraries are a gateway to accessing the reliable information needed in everyday life. She made the remarks in a social media post congratulating the National Library on its 81st anniversary and marking Maldives Library Day. The National Library is the largest archive in the Maldives. It houses a wide range of books, including valuable publications documenting the history of the Maldivian people. Minister Hina said libraries play a vital role in building a knowledgeable and educated society. She said that in addition to fostering a culture of reading and supporting learning, libraries also serve as gateways to accessing reliable information needed in daily life. The government is carrying out extensive efforts to preserve the country's heritage and historical assets so they can be passed on to future generations. As part of these initiatives, work is underway to protect both the Maldives' tangible and intangible cultural heritage and implement policies that enable heritage to contribute to economic development. One of the National Library's key ongoing projects is the establishment of modern libraries in cities to encourage learning and research among young people. As part of the initiative, the government plans to establish National Library branches on every inhabited island. Work is also progressing to establish National Library branches in Fuamulang and Addu City as part of the program to develop modern libraries across the country's cities. The National Library is the principal repository of the Maldives' information resources, providing comprehensive information on the nation's history, culture and research conducted over the years. It also preserves important publications produced in the Maldives. While the National Library already offers a wide range of services, the Ministry of Arts, Culture and Heritage said efforts are continuing to further expand and enhance these services. President of the Elections Commission of the Maldives, Mohammad Shakil, says the Maldives is not yet ready to adopt an electronic voting system. Speaking to PSM News, President of the Elections Commission of the Maldives, Shakil, said the public must first be given a thorough understanding of how electronic voting works before the country considers introducing such a system. He said the Maldives faces no financial barriers to implementing electronic voting, but stressed that public confidence and awareness remain the key challenge. According to Shakil, any move towards an electronic voting system should only take place after sustained public education and once the electorate has accepted the system. Shakil said the Maldivian society is not yet ready for electronic voting. He said there are many different discussions surrounding the system, with some people claiming it could be used to manipulate the electoral process. He added that before introducing electronic voting, the public must be made aware of the facts and provided with accurate information. Shakil made the remarks amid continuing a political debate over the proposed digital transformation bill. Opposition parties have alleged that the bill could pave the way for the introduction of electronic voting. However, the electoral body has repeatedly stated that it is not working to introduce an electronic voting system and has maintained that the proposed legislation continues no provisions relating to electronic voting. Members of the ruling People's National Congress have also said that neither the proposed legislative amendments nor the digital transformation bill are intended to change the Maldives' voting system. Managing Director of Fenaka Corporation, Mohammad Afif Hussain, says the government will support employees who voluntarily leave Fenaka Corporation by helping them establish their own businesses. Fenaka said 108 employees have applied to leave under a voluntary separation scheme introduced for staff wishing to resign. Speaking on a program on Divihira Jegadu, Managing Director Mohammad Afif Hussain said the scheme was introduced to allow employees who no longer had meaningful work to leave their posts with dignity. He said 97 employees applied when the scheme initially remained open until 14 June. He said additional applications have since been received, bringing the total number of employees currently being processed for departure to 108. He said employees leaving under the scheme will receive redundancy payments equivalent to 4 months' salary. He added that the government will also assist them in accessing opportunities to establish their own businesses. Afif noted that Fenaka's current income is insufficient to cover the salaries of its 8,000 employees. He said the government currently contributes between 2.59 million and 3.24 million US dollars each month to support the company's payroll. He explained that the 4 months' salary offered to departing employees will be funded from expenditure already approved within the company's budget. Fenaka said the workforce reduction forms part of efforts to strengthen the company's operations, improve efficiency and deliver better services to the public. The company added that although there is little or no work available on some islands, large number of employees remain stationed there, making workforce restructuring necessary. Zakat al-Mal collections double in June compared with the same month last year. According to the Maldives Inland Revenue Authority, MIRA's financial report for June, The state collected 1.37 million US dollars in Zakat al-Mal during this month. This compares with 687,418.94 US dollars collected in June last year, representing an increase of 100%. Zakat al-Mal is a religious obligation payable by every Muslim whose wealth has remained above the prescribed nisab or minimum threshold for one full lunar year. It may be paid on any day of the year once the obligation becomes due. Official figures show the state has collected 5.16 million US dollars in Zakat al-Mal so far this year. During the same period last year, collections totaled 3.99 million US dollars, meaning the revenue has increased by 29%. The nisab is the minimum amount of wealth a person must possess before Zakat al-Mal becomes obligatory. On 21st April, the Maldives Zakat House announced that the nisab for paying Zakat al-Mal in cash had been set at 1,416.12 US dollars based on the value of 595 grams of silver at a rate of 2.38 US dollars per gram. The Maldives Monetary Authority (MMA) published the market prices of gold and silver used for these calculations. As global gold and silver prices fluctuate, the nisab is adjusted accordingly. In the Maldives, Zakat al-Mal is collected by Mira. Payments can also be made online, and individuals can use Mira's website to calculate the amount of zakat they are required to pay. The Bank of Maldives BML says it sold a record 1.7 billion US dollars in foreign currency over the past 2.5 years to meet growing customer demand. The bank said it sold a total of 1.7 billion US dollars between January 2024 and the end of June 2026. This represents a 77% increase compared with the previous 2.5-year period when the bank sold 957 million US dollars. The total includes foreign currency provided for card transactions, telegraphic transfers or TT, overseas education and medical expenses, as well as cash sold to travelers. According to BML, 870 million US dollars was provided for card transactions made using Maldivian rupiah accounts during the period, more than double the amount recorded over the previous comparable period. The bank said average monthly foreign currency sales for card transactions increased from 10.7 million US dollars in 2021 to 37.8 million US dollars during the first half of 2026. BML said foreign currency sales for telegraphic transfers also increased significantly, with the monthly average rising from 10.2 million US dollars in 2023 to 28 million US dollars this year. The amount of foreign currency sold for students studying overseas and customers seeking medical treatment abroad also continued to increase. The monthly average rose from 2.9 million US dollars in 2023 to 5.8 million US dollars this year. The bank added that the amount of USD sold as cash to travelers has increased by 70% compared with previous levels. The National Bank said its average monthly foreign currency sales have nearly quadrupled over the past 5 years. While the bank sold an average of 21 million US dollars per month in 2021, that figure rose to 80 million US dollars per month during the first 6 months of 2026. The bank said the figures demonstrate its continued commitment to meeting the country's foreign currency requirements. It added that despite increasing demand, it will continue to prioritize the provisions of US dollars for customers' essential needs. The Maldives launches its first direct Umrah flights from Ad-Dugang International Airport to Saudi Arabia. The government has been working to make Umrah and Hajj travel easier for Maldivians by introducing a range of new services and arrangements. As part of these efforts, several new initiatives have already been introduced. The inaugural flight was operated by the national airline Maldivian using its Airbus A330 wide-body aircraft, providing a significant convenience for residents of Addu city and the southern atolls. The service was organized jointly by Maldivian and the travel agency The Traveller. A total of 260 pilgrims, including children, traveled on the inaugural flight. Maldivian also presented the pilgrims with special gifts. Speaking to PSM News, the airline said the launch marked a major milestone, adding that direct Umrah flights from the southern atolls would significantly improve accessibility for residents of the region. The airline added that this is the beginning of the service and that similar flights are expected to continue in the future. Maldivian launched its first direct Umrah flights from the Maldives on 22nd July last year, with more than 750 pilgrims travelling on the inaugural service. The airline operates the Umrah service using its Airbus A330 wide-body aircraft. In addition to Umrah services, Maldivian also operated flights carrying Maldivian Hajj pilgrims to Saudi Arabia during last year's Hajj season. In recent years, the number of Maldivians performing Umrah has increased significantly, with more young people and entire families travelling with young children undertaking the pilgrimage. Meanwhile, Maldivian has also established a dedicated southern connectivity network to improve domestic air travel across the 4 southern atolls. Under the network, scheduled flights now operate between Addu, Formula and the 3 regions of Wadu Atoll, strengthening regional connectivity. Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation reveals that Maldives increased its tourism accommodation capacity by more than 600 beds during the first half of the year. The ministry said the total number of tourist beds in operation has now reached 68,142. According to the latest figures, the Maldives currently has 1,302 tourism establishments in operation. These include 179 resorts, 934 guest houses, 173 safari vessels and 16 hotels. The ministry said the total number of tourist beds stood at 67,475 at the end of last year, meaning accommodation capacity has increased by 667 beds so far this year. The ministry said tourism accommodation capacity has continued to expand despite ongoing global economic challenges. According to the latest figures, the Maldives has welcomed 1,114,751 tourist arrivals so far this year. However, this represents a 4.9% decline compared with the same period last year. Workers at Audi's Neckarsulm plant in Germany calls for clarity over the future of their site and other Volkswagen Group locations, as Europe's largest automaker weighs a far-reaching overhaul that sources say could cost around 100,000 jobs. Volkswagen said following a supervisory board meeting that it plans to gradually cut its model lineup by up to half and focus on the most attractive market segments. The company also plans to reduce production capacity to 9 million vehicles per year, down from 10 million currently, while cutting so-called offering complexity, including equipment options, by up to 75%. Car painter Deniz Akbulut, chairman of the trainee representation at the Neckarsulm plant, said workers wanted clear answers rather than vague reassurances. He said it was positive that the German federal government was getting involved, but stressed that employees needed to know where things are headed and what would happen not only to their plant but also to other sites whose futures remain unclear. Akbulut said only closure of the Neckarsulm site would be a catastrophe not only for the workforce but for the wider region. He said the plant employs around 15,000 people, with many more jobs in surrounding businesses and professions dependent on it. Volkswagen is under unprecedented pressure to restructure the business model that underpinned its success for decades, as high costs, excess capacity in Germany, rising Chinese competition, regulation and US import tariffs had weighed on profit margins. Sources have said Bloom is considering closing 4 German plants, Hanover, Emden, Zwickau and Audi's Neckarsulm site, and cutting up to 100,000 jobs, roughly double the number currently planned. Volkswagen did not provide specifics on potential job cuts or factory closures, which drew major worker protests across company sites. Iran's Revolutionary Guards Navy says it had closed the Strait of Hormuz until further notice after firing a warning shot at a vessel it said had attempted to transit along an unapproved route. US President Donald Trump said the US and Iran had agreed to continue talks despite an escalation of hostilities this week, while also declaring an end to the ceasefire between the two countries. About a fifth of the world's oil supply transited through the Strait of Hormuz before the war, and Iran's effective blockade of the waterway has caused energy prices to surge, fueling global inflation. In a statement reported by Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting, the IRGC Navy said foreign interference and attempts to set what it called an illegal route for shipping through the strait would be met with a firm response. It said several vessels had ignored warnings to correct their course and move within the approved route. One vessel, which it said had turned off its systems and endangered maritime security, was stopped after warning shots were fired. The IRGC Navy said no vessels would be allowed to pass through the strait until US interference in the area ends. It also warned that any new attack or violation would be met with a forceful response, including strikes on what it called new enemy bases in the region. State media reported that Iran's Revolutionary Guards Navy said that early it had closed the Strait of Hormuz until further notice after firing a warning shot at a vessel it said had attempted to transit along an unapproved route. France defenders Dayot Upamecano and William Saliba does not take part in France's training session, with the team preparing for their World Cup semi-final against Spain on Tuesday. Centre-half Saliba has been nursing a back injury throughout the tournament and was rested in France's final group match against Norway. There were no details on Upamecano's absence, but the central defender has come into the tournament straight from a busy club season with Bayern Munich. The pair, who started the 2-0 quarter-final win over Morocco, are among the reasons France have conceded only 2 goals in their 6 World Cup matches at the tournament so far, one more than opponent Spain. Mbappe, who left the quarter-final early after scoring his 8th goal of this World Cup and the 20th of his tournament career, appeared fine as he jogged around the pitch alongside Ousmane Dembele, Desire and other teammates in the portion of training open to the media. The race to bring commercial drone delivery into the mainstream accelerates in the United States, with major retailers including Walmart expanding efforts to get groceries to customers in minutes instead of hours. At a Walmart store in Ellenwood, Georgia, Wing employees prepare customer orders by attaching grocery bags to drones as the aircraft lifts off from a dedicated launch area. The drones travel directly to customers' homes, bypassing road traffic as companies push to scale up drone delivery operations. Chief Business Officer at Wing, Heather Rivera, said consumers increasingly expect faster delivery, creating demand for new technology. Wing says interest from retail partners has shifted beyond testing programs to large-scale commercial operations. At the Ellenwood location, employees shuttle orders from inside the Walmart store to the drone launch site, where aircraft take off one after another carrying customer purchases. Wing says speed is one of the biggest advantages over traditional delivery services. The expansion comes as the Federal Aviation Administration works to establish a broader regulatory framework for commercial drone operations. Wing says clearer rules could make it easier to expand service nationwide. As drones take off, land, and prepare for their next deliveries in Ellenwood, companies are betting that autonomous aircraft will become an increasingly common part of how Americans receive groceries and other everyday purchases. And that's all we have for you right now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more news updates. Have a good day. Goodbye.